Hi, everybody. Our lesson today for level one is conducting a successful session. So we will be talking about the methods and strategies that tutors should use to facilitate a productive and effective tutoring session. The standard for this lesson says the tutor structures and delivers the tutorial session using an effective methodology as outlined in their program's training curriculum. So we've talked a little bit about the tutoring do's and don'ts, where we went over a whole bunch of different aspects of tutoring, where it was maybe even talking about professionalism and being ready for your tutoring appointment, being a good role model and things like that. But part of those tutoring do's and don'ts was what to do in a tutoring session. So some of those do's will come back up again in this lesson, and we'll revisit some of those topics and things that you should try to remember as you are conducting your tutoring session. So the first thing we're going to do is a tutor evaluation. And this is really the bulk of our lesson today. So we're going to look at a tutor evaluation form together. And then based on that form, we're going to watch a video of an example tutoring session from another college and kind of think about what that tutor is doing well, maybe what that tutor can improve on based on the categories, excuse me, the categories and topics that are on that tutor evaluation form. And we'll take some notes as we watch that and then discuss the benefits and drawbacks that that tutor had as they went through that session. We'll discuss that together afterwards. So the first thing we're going to do is look at this tutor evaluation form for two reasons. Because it does outline a lot of good things that a tutor should do in a session, but it's also the tutoring form, the evaluation form that you, as peer tutors, are going to be evaluated with when you're tutoring in the tutoring center. So I want you to have some experience working with this form so you really know what we're looking for as staff when we observe you when we're doing your tutoring evaluations. I don't want anything to be a secret with our expectations and what we're looking for. I feel that if we're going to be evaluating you on certain skills and abilities, we should tell you what we are looking for. We should tell you what we expect from you if we are asking you to hit those certain marks, right? So if we're asking you to hit those targets, then we should show you what those targets are so you're able to do that successfully. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this and pull up our tutor evaluation form. And this will be linked on Canvas as well. In person, everybody has a copy of this to take notes on. And then when you're working in the tutoring center, this is the form, like I said, that you will be evaluated with when we observe you. So at the top, there's a space to fill out the tutor's name, the semester, and the year. And then your evaluation is based on the following criteria, and it explains what you need to do to hit proficient, satisfactory, needs improvement. And then the fourth category is not applicable, meaning we're not able to evaluate that area or that category during the session that was observed, or maybe it doesn't apply to what we were observing that day. So then we have this chart. On the left-hand side, it has the tutoring skills and methods that we are observing and evaluating for. And then we have the categories where we check off proficient, satisfactory, or needs improvement. So the first one for tutoring skills and methods says greets students in a friendly manner. So we want to see that you are doing that, that you're welcoming the student into the center, you're welcoming them to the session and making them feel comfortable and welcome. The second skill provides an opportunity for the student to state the focus or concern for the session. So really putting the responsibility and uh, putting the responsibility and direction on the student for where this appointment is going to go. So in the tutoring do's and don'ts, we talked about setting a goal. with the student at the beginning of the session, asking them, what is your goal for this session? What do you want to achieve during this session? Having them focus on that one thing, um, but giving them that opportunity at the beginning to state that. The third one encourages the student to initiate the first task of the session, to open their books, to write, to explain. So again, putting the ball in their court of what are we doing first? The next one, encouraging the student's participation to break down a task or a problem into parts. So you can lead that, you can help facilitate that process of how to break down a task or a problem into smaller parts, but you should be encouraging the student to participate in that with you and not just doing it for them or showing them. The next one helps the student to understand the steps needed to problem solve. That one's pretty self-explanatory. The next one asks the student useful guiding questions rather than telling or giving the answer. So again, this is coming back to having the student participate in their own learning using active learning strategies and not just telling the student this is how you do something, but you're involving the student in their own learning. Okay, the next one says encourages the student to use additional resources to enhance individual understanding. And some of those additional resources are like their notes, their textbook, the library, maybe some websites for supplemental resources. So giving them the idea of like, hey, there are other resources out there that you can go to help you with this concept. The next one asks the student to practice and or retell the general approach learned to ensure their understanding. So I would say just from my informal general observations of tutoring, this might be one that tutors maybe not struggle with, but it could be one that we could be more purposeful about doing towards the end of a session, asking the student to show what they've learned, to practice what we've shown them, or practice what we've given them maybe some reinforcement on, or having them retell what they learned while they were with us, and really cementing that before they leave. The next one uses patience and appropriate wait time for the student to respond, speak, and or learn. Again, that one's pretty self-explanatory. The next one uses sincere praise and encouragement, staying positive the whole time here. And then the very last one ends the tutoring session on a positive note. Again, in the tutoring do's and don'ts, we talked about encouraging the student to make a return appointment, even taking them to the front desk to help them with that if they need to, or offering to make an appointment for them, but really putting that in their brain of like, hey, make sure you come back if you need help, or, we didn't quite get through everything today. Let's make another appointment for next week so you can come back and check in. So yes, ending the session on a positive note, maybe revisiting like, look what we got through today. This is great progress. Giving them some kind of encouragement there, but then also bringing back, hey, let's make another appointment. So they're coming back to the center. So then there's a box for comments. So when we're watching the video, you can leave comments there, write some notes. When we are observing you in the center, this is where we would write our own comments. And then there's a section for professionalism and preparation. And this section is more for your overall behavior as a tutor, not just a one-time observation. So the first one, there's only 3 categories. The first one says exhibits professional behavior, and then it gives some examples like being punctual, reliable, respectful, dressed appropriately, using proper language, and minimal absenteeism. The second category says demonstrates knowledge and preparation for the subject area tutored. So you know what you're talking about with your subject and you prepare ahead of time if you need to. So you're not coming in at the last minute unprepared for something. Maybe, it's like, oh, I haven't taken statistics in 2 years and I have a stats appointment today. I'm really rusty, and you didn't prepare for that. And then the session doesn't go very well. right? So if you're being professional and prepared, you would look at your appointments ahead of time and know that and be like, oh, I need to brush up on some of my stats. Maybe get my binder out from that class, look at some notes, or like look up a couple of videos before the student comes in, just to kind of get myself into that way of thinking again. And then the last one maintains accurate records. And then it says examples like worksheets, daily schedule updates, time cards, right? So we have our time cards where you clock in and clock out. We have Salesforce. Those are our two big ones. So just making sure that you are consistently doing well in these three areas. All right. So that is the tutor evaluation form. Now, we're going to watch the video example of the tutoring session. Um, that's the example version, and then you will take notes on that using the form. So I'm going to click over here. You can see this is an example session for a math tutoring session at another college. The video is fairly short, it's under 6 minutes. So the link is in Canvas, and you can just take your time and watch that and take some notes as you're watching. You can also fill out the evaluation form if you want to as well and actually give this tutor scores. That might help you kind of decide their strengths and weaknesses as you are watching. So go ahead and take some time and do that now. So during our in-person trainings, we would then discuss this as a group, what you noticed, some positive things, and then maybe some areas that this tutor could improve on. For the training, if you're doing this on video, I will just have you turn in your notes and your tutor evaluation form into Canvas so I can see what you wrote. But some things that we talk about usually and things that I notice from this video, the tutor does greet the student appropriately and kindly. And the student says, well, the tutor also asks what the student wants to work on. So that's good. And the student tells the tutor that he has a math problem and he needs to do these things. This math problem has about 4 different parts. And the student says that from the beginning. He says, I need to blank, 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 blank in this problem, right? And lists off these 4 things right from the start. The tutor, right after that, jumps into an explanation of how to simplify this math equation or the function. He does not ask the student any other questions. He just goes into basically, this is how you do the problem, and I'm showing you how to do it. And he starts writing, the tutor starts writing on the paper how to do all of this math. So I would suggest if a student comes in and has a problem that literally has 4 different parts to it, asking the student which part specifically they are struggling on, where they're getting stuck, because it might not be the entire problem that they are having difficulty with. You can also have the student start working on the problem and see where they get stuck. And he's like, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and start this? And then we'll see where it gets tricky for you. And then we can, I can help you when you get to that part. Because sometimes students might not be able to verbalize what part they are getting stuck on. He could also say, like, well, if you're not sure where you're getting stuck, here's how I would break this down. And then say, like, we need to work on this part first, and then we're going to work on this part, and show the student how to break this down into chunks instead of just jumping in to a long explanation of how to answer this math problem. The tutor is also doing a lot of talking. So we've talked before in our tutoring do's and don'ts that the tutor should be doing the least amount of talking. The student should be doing the most talking. You want them to be talking through their learning, to be explaining things. So if the tutor is talking the whole time, the student's not doing active learning. And in this example, the tutor talks a ton. So he can definitely improve by asking leading questions and guiding questions and using more active learning strategies with the student. So those are some of the things that I notice in this. I'm going to go to the end of the transcript because I think also he just lets the student leave Yes. So the student says, okay, perfect, that's all I needed. And the tutor says, great, thank you, no problem. And then it's done. Yes, he ended on a positive note, but he didn't say anything about, hey, let's make another appointment, or if you need more help, please come back. You can, always stop in or whatever. So he didn't make that connection at the end to having another visit to the tutoring center. All right, so I am going to end the video there. This is the end of our training for conducting a successful session. Thank you.